All right, I am going to call us to order. I'm so glad to see a full house. I hope all these people are here to celebrate education and lifelong learning, I think. In accordance with the South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. If you will now join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone did receive a copy of the agenda for tonight. Did anybody have any modifications?
Negative.
Right, then we'll move right along. And we'll start with exciting celebrations from Dr. Dixon and Dr. Wigsmith.
Good evening, members of the board. It's my pleasure to present to you tonight several completers of our Leadership Academy experience for the 2025-26 school year. We'll be recognizing participants from several strands. Before they're recognized, I'll give a brief description of that strand. I'll ask all participants to remain standing until all names have been called for that particular area, and then they'll take a picture. We'll start with Strand 1, Instructional Leadership. This strand of Leadership Academy equips leaders with the knowledge and tools to drive academic achievement through high-quality instruction. Participants were able to examine how to set clear instructional priorities, conduct meaningful classroom observations, and deliver feedback that improves teaching practices. This strand was developed and conducted in conjunction with our curriculum department, Dr. Michael Wakesmith and his staff, so I want to publicly thank them for their help with that. Tonight, we're recognizing the following individuals: Casey Zeppla, Emily McQuay, Frank Spezio, Rashad Brown, Jackie Pollard, Aaron Plummer, Matt Mallory, Pam Mallory, Mary Margaret Brand, Daniel Lewis, James Cook, Rachel Driver, Michelle Greit, and Christy Cruft.
Shoulders back.
Great job. Thank you to that group. Our next group represents the strand Courageous Leadership. These sessions worked with leaders to develop the interpersonal and organizational courage required to lead through complexity and change. In these sessions, leaders were able to explore how to initiate and sustain transformation, engage in crucial conversations, and communicate with influence in high-stakes environments. Join me in welcoming Victoria Bujak, Kelly Dusek, Jen Johnson, Rachel Showmate, Megan Sininger, Matt Mallory, Lisa Lucas, Beth Hinman, Chris Chandler, Jen Hendershot, Kristen Rhodes, Jennifer Wilson, Gary Ham, Lori Marullo, Karen Scroggs, and Meredith Edwards. No, she's not.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're doing great. If you'll remember first semester, we recognized some of the folks who were completers, and I mentioned to you we would have more completers for the second semester. I'm just so thrilled that we had so many participants.
Keep my face in.
Our next category is leadership personal development. These sessions focused on the internal dimensions of leadership, self-awareness, continuous growth, and strategic thinking. In our sessions, leaders were able to examine proven frameworks, reflect on their development as professionals and leaders, and build their capacity to lead themselves before leading others. Tonight, we'll recognize Mickey Joslin, Katrina Wilkerson, Rachel Showmate, Matt Mallory, Mark Perch, Meredith Edwards, Dave Chesky, Kelly Dusak, Jason Crapo, and Angela Struve.
Matt, you can just stay up here.
All right, you might as well.
Some last semester.
Right?
Our next group represents the category of teacher leadership. I love this group. We worked with lots of aspiring leaders or teacher leaders who are in the classroom leading in various ways outside of school administration or who aspire to school administrative positions. In these sessions, we worked on cultivating leadership capacity among classroom teachers who are ready to extend their influence beyond their own room. The participants were able to examine what it means to lead with influence, communicate with impact, and lay the groundwork for a sustainable leadership identity. I'm excited to recognize Hannah Kokenauer, Emily Gaither, Laura Hussein, Michelle Hickey, Mary Catherine Lafferty, Renika Middleton, Noemi Santos, Audrey Sif Lewis, Courtney Smith, Amon Spencer, Lauren Tennant, Kaylee Colin, Jennifer Brailsford, Drew Wilkie, and Kristen Petremont. Our final category to recognize tonight was a strand that we held for leaders who are not school building leaders, but rather may be leaders of departments. We thought of them as managers, non-instructional leaders outside of the traditional school leadership route. These participants were able to work on practical skills around performance management, staff accountability, expectation setting, and crucial conversations. Tonight, we recognize one person who completed the strand, although we had several participants, but folks who were not able to participate in all sessions, Dr. Amy Maziars, and I enjoyed working with her in her department. The desire to lead is well and alive in Fort Mill School District. It has been my pleasure leading Leadership Academy this year. I'm already working on our curriculum for the next school year and excited to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It is exciting to see that we encourage our leaders to keep learning all the time. Next up is public participation. We just have the one card. So it'll be 5 minutes according to policy, and Jamie Costilla, whenever you are ready, ma'am.
Jamie Costilla, 774 Gates Mill Drive, number 203. Good evening. Earlier this year, after 2 leaks, this board took an important step by issuing a resolution asking the governor and other officials to assist in removing harmful chemicals from the SILFAB facility. That action acknowledged a clear concern that the current situation poses a potential threat to student safety. But since then, there has been no visible progress, no updates, and no sense of urgency communicated to the families whose children are directly affected. Meanwhile, emails are being sent out to hundreds of parents for Flint Hill Middle School for this upcoming fall. A new school opening should be an exciting time, but instead, it is a time of fear and anxiety as parents try to figure out what they're going to do. Flint Hill Elementary was closed for 2 days because of the spills, affecting hundreds of students and staff. We were incredibly lucky that no one was seriously injured as a result of the leaks. But now, a new school is opening this fall. That means any incident, any leak, any failure will no longer affect one student population, but two. The number of children being placed in harm's way is more than doubling, while the level of protection and preparedness remains unchanged. That is deeply concerning. This is not speculation or fear-mongering. It's about risk management and responsibility. When a governing body identifies a potential hazard significant enough to formally request state intervention, that should mark the beginning of action and not the end of it. Families in this community deserve clarity. They deserve to know what steps have been taken since the resolution was issued. What responses, if any, have been received from state officials? If no response has been received, what has this board done to follow up? What contingency plans are in place if relocation does not happen? And most importantly, what is being done right now to ensure that students are safe? We expect more from this board and from our superintendent. We expect leadership, we expect transparency, and we expect you will handle this matter with urgency. Student safety is involved. Waiting is still not an option. This board and this superintendent must actually do something. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think next up is the beginning of a lot of time we get to spend with you, Ms. Lordo. So first up is a discussion of the budget.
Okay, good evening. Yes, tonight is our third meeting where we are bringing before you and offering opportunity to answer your questions related to our proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget. And this is our last meeting and discussion in preparation for our public budget hearing, which will be held on Tuesday evening, June the 2nd, followed by our plan to have on your board agenda approval of the budget for next year. I'm going to start out by just kind of giving a recap for you all and for the public of where we are and some of the discussion that we have had over the prior two meetings. So we started our budget discussion with you all on April 14th. That was when we rolled out the administration's recommended budget for next year. We presented a budget plan that totaled $271,683,005. It contained 5 categories of new spending, new items that we proposed. And this is typically how we have presented to you in past years with our priorities broken down by categories. Category 1 are the highest priorities. These are things that are related to our top items, which is teacher pay increases and pay increases for all of our staff. And then other items that are related to existing contracts, utility cost, insurance, any new teachers we need for growth, and those type of items are our priority 1. At the meeting on April 14th, the administration also recommended to you to fund categories 2 and 3 priorities. And these collectively, category 1, 2, and 3, would require a 10.5 mil increase. Category 1 was 8 mils, and coincidentally, that agrees with what the Act 388 formula portion allows for the inflationary increase or the consumer price index portion. But category 2 and 3 would require that additional 2.5 mils. At the May 5th meeting, we had discussion with you all related to possibly picking up categories 4 and 5. And we shared with you all a desire that we have had over the last couple months as we've gone through the budget process for funding new pre-K classrooms. And a lot of that is in preparation for our new early childhood center, which will open in 2 years. You shared that you would also like to see us be able to fund the new pre-K classrooms. We went back and worked really hard, as we have throughout the whole budget process. And I think I shared with you at both of the prior 2 meetings that our principals have been great about working with us, because we have literally discussed every possible available FTE, that's a full-time equivalent position, that has come from a retirement, a resignation, a shift in someone moving to a different position. Every available position that we have had previously in the budget, we have discussed whether we needed to replace it as is for that particular school, that particular grade level, or that service for those students that it was related to, or could we use it to shift to another type of position with a higher need. I think I shared with you early on that when we originally looked at our enrollment projections, we needed 2 new teaching positions at the high school level, and both of those were Catawba Ridge High School due to their growth. We needed 2 new middle school teaching positions, and those were for Pleasant Knoll Middle and Gold Hill Middle. And we could reduce our elementary overall teaching staff by 13 positions. So we utilized those 13 positions to be able to fund a lot of things that are not listed on one of our categories, because we've already determined how we fund those positions that we needed for special ed classroom assistants, and for 4 elementary math coaches, and for 4 middle school math interventionists. So we are strategically had already come up with a way to fund those. So we went back and kept that process going, and we were able to identify additional teaching positions that were vacancies that we could shift to fund the pre-K classrooms. So we've identified 4 additional teachers that we can fund the 4 additional pre-K classrooms. It's 2 regular ed and 2 special ed. And we've identified 4 of the 6 needed classroom assistants. So that would fund category 5. The other piece that was category 4 were for the 4 additional elementary math coaches for the 4 schools that we were not able to fund, and that would require an additional mill. So we would have been requesting a total of 11.5 mills. I also shared at the last meeting that on the kind of the other side of funding is debt service, and that's separate from our general fund. We had a very successful bond issue, and in looking at our repayment plan, also looking at some bond premium from that sale in the bond market, we were able to direct that back toward debt service, and we will be able to lower our debt millage by 1.5 mils in October. So that was going to offset the additional millage that we would need to fund the 4 elementary math coaches in category 4. Are y'all staying with me on this? Okay. So that's kind of where we left things at the last meeting. So we published, by state law, we have to publish and advertise for our public hearing on the budget. That doesn't mean that that locks you into that exact amount of spending or millage, but we did publish to meet the requirement with categories 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, even though we had determined how to fund 5. So that was a total budget plan that we published in the newspaper of $272,083,005. Does that make sense? Are y'all with me on that?
Number one more time.
Yeah.
Okay. $272,083,005. So it's 272,083,005 that we published. So that is where we are coming into tonight's discussion. So I want to start out tonight by sharing some information that literally I received today. I have been badgering these poor State Department people all last week. I was checking the website 3 or 4 times a day for the Senate projections, and they kept promising. Well, it posted this morning. So you can imagine the emails have gone a little crazy today with districts across the state asking questions and trying to make sure everything is correct. So we haven't had a lot of time with these numbers. But in looking at the projections for us, and just as a reminder, these projections are updated for the 135-day average daily membership, or ADM, counts for all the districts across the state. So we literally kind of keep our fingers crossed and with this proportional share formula that we are not going to be significantly lowered in state revenue. So in looking at our numbers, let me go back. The budget plan that we presented, we were going to lose $605,000. Do you remember that? $605,000 in state funding. With the new Senate version, we have now gained $452,599. So we saw a shift for about $1,058,000, going from a negative 605 to a positive 452,000 in state funding.
Okay.
So that's great news. I mean, I wish it was a lot more, but I'm really grateful that it didn't go.
Yeah, because
Yes,
almost
it didn't swing the other way. Yes. So also, since the last meeting, we have received the March year-to-date tax collection reports from York County. So what I do is I update where we are year-to-date. So I use the actual March vehicle tax collections, and then I use the same collections from last year for April, May, and June. But as you know, as I've reported every month, we've seen an increase because of the growth here in the community and cars on the road. We've seen an increase in our monthly vehicle tax collections. So I've updated the tax projections based on the most current reports from York County. So the bottom line, the administration, we are still recommending this same expenditure plan for next year. We are still recommending the $272,083,005. We are still recommending categories 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, except for the category 5 included possibly funding additional funds into the contingency for opening new schools. But outside of that, just stopping at the pre-K classrooms. That is still our recommended budget plan for next year to you. This would only require a millage increase of 8.5 mils. So we can pull back 2 mils based on the new state projections and the new tax projections. And I thought I was interested, and I thought you may be interested to know, I went back and looked at the past 10 years. So for the past 9 years, since 2018, we have only had 1 year, and that was in 2019, where we had an 8 mil budget millage increase. We've only had 1 year in the last 9 years that it was less than 10 mils. So I think this would definitely be a win-win for our taxpayers if we were able to fund this with 8.5 mils.
You're saying the whole thing,
I'm saying the whole thing.
category 1 through 5.
Correct.
based on if the Senate version sticks.
Yes. So it is now in conference committee.
Okay.
They have not set a date or that we have been told for their discussions, but I did receive an update today from Sandy Smith. She's our executive director, and she actually listens to all of the discussions in Columbia, the committee meetings, and the full House and Senate. And she shared with us today, she said the BEA met and adjusted their state projections for the remainder of this fiscal year and next year's projections. This is the group that actually estimates sales tax collections, income tax collection, all the various taxes in the state. The BEA is the group that estimates for the General Assembly what the state revenue is going to be. She said, based on the projections that went out today, she said the Budget Conference Committee, which will be the conferees, will have an additional $210.7 million in recurring general fund revenue and $369.4 million in non-recurring revenue to appropriate in the budget next year. Now, that doesn't mean anything more will go to education, but I think that's a positive sign that I would not expect they are going to pull back any of what they've already committed to go into the state aid to classroom formula.
Do we know who's been assigned to the conference committee?
We do know who's been assigned to the conference committee. I know that Harvey Peeler's been assigned. I know Tom Davis has been assigned. Brad Hutto's been assigned. The reason I have those in my mind is I've been working kind of through my contacts. I'm working on the free breakfast proviso that's in the state budget. I'm working really hard on that. And so I've been reaching out to my contacts in those districts to ask them to reach out to those representatives to ask them to support keeping the free breakfast proviso was put back in the Senate version of the budget. So now it's gone back to House 2. I cannot remember who the other three are. It's not anyone directly here local, unfortunately, for us.
Got two clarifications. One, the formula allows, I believe, 19.1, is that?
19.7.
19.7.
The Act 388 formula would allow you to have authority to increase millage 19.7 mils. And that's a combination of the CPI plus the growth for our district.
All right, and following up on Joe's question, the 8.5 includes 1 through 5, taking out the contingency piece?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
that was my understanding.
And I'm glad for us to get into more detail on some of the specific items if you have questions, but I do have a little bit of data I would like to share with you that I've compiled since the last meeting. So I started thinking about, we always get questions about how does our per pupil spending compare to other districts? And so I decided to pull 20 districts, and I pulled our other 3 York County districts. I pulled a few of the Old English Consortium districts, not every single one, but I pulled a few Old English Consortium districts. And then I pulled districts from across the state that I felt like were similar to us in growth, similar to us in size, or just similar to us in good financial practices. Districts that I knew kind of how they operated, how they went through their budget process, that I wanted to see how we compared with them in a couple areas of per pupil spending. And I thought so I didn't go out and look for any specific districts that I knew were lower or higher than us. But I thought the data that came back was just extremely interesting. And I wanted to share just a couple pieces of this with you and publicly this evening, because I think it goes to what we always say about our district and how we treat things going through the budget process and how we prioritize things. So this is the first chart that I want to share, and this is our spending per pupil category. And let me start by saying that this data and the data that I pull for other districts, this all comes from the state Department of Ed website, the financial services piece of the State Department website, and it's a program called Insight Data. And this comes from every school district in the state is required to upload their general ledger, their accounting transactions at the end of their fiscal year after audit. So we use this data because we know it's comparable with each other. We know it's calculated exactly the same way, that no district has included something that we haven't or excluded something that we haven't. So this is coming from public information, from the Insight data. You can go out and look at it. You can select certain districts. And when you pull it up, it's broken down by these categories. And I think it's very interesting when you look across the state at different districts. But this is ours for the most recent year published. So our total spend per pupil, and this is 2014 data, was $13,470.
What year?
2024. Did I say 14? 2024. Sorry,
I was like,
not that far back. They're a little behind, but they're not that far back. 2024 data. So this shows that of that $13,470, we spent 58.1% directly on instruction. That's teachers, classrooms, or $7,830. We then spent 13.8% on instructional support. That's classroom assistance and those type of services. So that was $1,853 of the $13,470. Do you see how this is charted? So that means in total, we spent 71.9% of our spend per pupil on instruction and instructional support for our district. So you can see that if you add the yellow and the blue, how much of that pie chart is directly classroom related.
Ms. Lordo,
Yes.
the instruction support, that would be behavioral interventionists, that would be school psychologists.
Yes.
That's anything related to special education or special extra addeds that's not an actual
mental health,
classroom.
et cetera.
Correct. Correct.
Hey, Miss Lordo,
Yes.
does anybody have this in their packet?
You do not have this
It's not in
one.
the packet, but
Can-
she
can we
said
get
that
that?
You have the others, but you don't have this one, but I'm glad to send this one out to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You sent
Sure.
an email, I thought.
I not
Maybe
this,
not
this
this
is
one?
the new
Okay.
one. We had an idea to show you this one. And then the other big piece you'll see, and I have another chart that's kind of interesting on this one, is operational cost. And you know how we always talk about our budget is 89 to 90% positions, and then another 6% is operational cost. So you can see that of our $13,470 per student, $2,783 went to operational cost. And so much of that is really not, I don't want to say it's not controllable, but it's things that it's utility cost, it's insurance cost, it's those types of communications costs that we don't have a lot of say in those rates. And that's why we tried so hard, like with our energy plan, energy management program that we've been doing, trying to cut our utility cost.
Does operations also then include safety and security
Yes,
measures?
yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. And then you'll see that 5.7% is school management. That's principals and assistant principals. 1.2% is programs management. A big piece of that is our curriculum staff, our program directors that work with the various federal funds. And then you'll see this little sliver that is 0.5%, that is district management. That little sliver of red is district management. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But I think this is a very interesting chart graphically to kind of see the breakdown of our spend per pupil.
For sure. This
Wow,
is super helpful
Right.
to me.
Good.
I'm a visual
Yes.
person, and this is super helpful to me. And I'm going to tell on my own self. When I was in the classroom, I used to say, well, we're just top heavy. We're just top heavy, blah, blah, blah. That's why such and such. And I think it is clear where our priorities are.
Yes.
And
And this is 1 year, but I think if you even went back for us 5 or 10 years, it would the numbers would change a little bit, but it would look very
The
similar.
division.
Hey,
Yes.
we can also add, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but before this, I believe we were going off like 2021 numbers. And we were around, I think it was 11,000 something per student. I still think this number right here is still under, if I remember right, what like our neighboring districts were
It is,
in 2021.
yes,
Back then.
yes.
It's still,
Yeah.
yes, it's still less than the neighbors
So
spent in
that's-
'21.
That's just a
Correct.
testament.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So the next one that we charted out, this shows our neighbors, but this is all of the districts that I pulled, and this is the total spend per pupil charted out. And you can see that we are in the lower half of our spend per pupil, and it varies from Berkeley County Schools. Their spend was $10,296, and it goes, and we were at $13,470, and it goes all the way up to Fairfield County spend was $23,919.
I mean, are they buying the kids homes?
That is the variance
Well-
among these school districts, and these are the districts that I selected. Like I say, it was a random sample, but yet it was thoughtful because these are districts I might know something about, even if they're not right here adjoining with us. But I think this is very interesting to look at just the range of the spend per pupil across the districts.
Well, and
Okay.
before you go too far, I want to just say, I love, again, same thing. I'm a very visual, so to see it like this, but I love that you've put the time and energy into collecting the data, making sure that it is accurate and apples, because sometimes narratives can be misleading when it's not apples and apples.
Absolutely, absolutely. This one shows, we referenced on the first one how much we spend on instruction and instructional support. So we pulled the top 5 districts with the highest percentage of spend in this area. So you can see that there was only one district with a higher spend for instruction and instructional support, and that was Beaufort County Schools. But you can see that we were second with our spend of $7,830 for instruction and $1,853 for instructional support. This one is one I want to talk about. This is that district level management spend per pupil. This was that little sliver of red that is district management spend per pupil. There was only one district that spends lower than us, you can see, and that's Berkeley County Schools. But I will tell you, when I looked at their data, there was something on there that didn't look right to me. They did not have any spend for legal services out of their general fund. So I actually reached out to their CFO, and I asked that question. And they replied back to me and said, that's not right, and we thought that had been corrected, and we're going to get that corrected with our insight data. So I don't know where their number will fall.
Considerably more.
I don't know where their number will fall. It was just odd to me that they didn't have any legal services, because we cover legal services unless it's a bond issue out of our general fund budget in accordance with the state accounting handbook. So outside of Berkeley County, we are the lowest district of these other 19 districts with a $74 per pupil spend out of the $13,470.
think
I thought
it's
that was very
extremely helpful to
interesting.
see this.
Right?
It was very
Okay.
helpful for me just to see it like this. I mean, we always say it,
Right.
that, you know, we,
It makes all
yes,
the difference.
absolutely.
And to be fair, you chose very good districts for this.
I did, like I said, I did not purposely go out there and look at any specific pieces of data.
Yeah.
and say, well, I want that district in my sample.
You've got good
I-
compare,
didn't
you've got
cherry
good,
pick.
Yes.
you've got good comps here.
Yes. These are the districts that we normally compare ourselves to
Right.
for various reasons.
Nice return on
Okay.
investment.
And this one I think is interesting. This goes to that operational piece that we talked about. And that's why I wanted to show this one. You can see that we're the column on the far left. So our operational spend was 20.7%. But there were only 3 districts who had less than we do in operational spend. And that was Aiken, Anderson 1, and Beaufort County. But you can see how close they were at 18.7%, 19.0%, and 19.4%. And we were at 20.7%. So I think this is an interesting chart because you can see how we are aligned with the other districts in these areas, but we are certainly low as well. We're high on instructional support. We're definitely low on district management, and we're low on our overall operational support for our facilities.
And most importantly, we're high on delivering results.
Yes.
Amen.
So I like this chart for that reason as well. I think it speaks to that and what we spend on the upkeep and how careful we are with what we spend on really anything outside the classroom. So those were the ones that I wanted to show you and kind of speak to. And we can continue to pull any additional data and show if you have other thoughts about how we need to show this for our community. I think this is just really beneficial for people to see what we're doing with the taxpayer dollars.
Remind me, isn't this able to be pulled, like, I could go home and pull up, I want to say it's the State Department's website, and there's a.
Yes, so there
Slider
is,
that you can do.
it's not exactly the insight data. And I asked the State Department, my contacts there, that question because as I was looking through some things, you're referring to the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office Education Dashboard,
Yep.
Frank Rainwater's
Yes.
office and staff. And you can go into that site and pull data, but on his data, they pick up either debt service or capital projects, and I can't remember which one. I think it's capital projects in their per pupil spend.
Mhm.
So you can imagine that in any given year, it can be not comparable with other districts depending on what projects a district has going on.
Right.
And certainly not for us because we've been in a needed build mode.
Well, and we continue to always upkeep and maintain our facilities. We don't allow them to become dilapidated.
Correct. But that's what I like about this insight data is that it does not include any debt service expenditures or capital projects. It's only general fund type expenditures for each district. So I think it's very, very comparable for each district. So at this time, I'm glad to open it up for any other questions or points of discussion you may have about the budget as you consider anything that we need to look into for you before the public hearing and before the final approval. I do want to share that we did reach out. I think, Mr. Beatty, you had the question at the last meeting about the pupil projections, student enrollment projections. Superintendent Young and I reached out to Dr. Dale Holden. I had some discussion with him. We asked him, we found out that the way that he does his projections and his methodology is he actually looks back 10 years and works with average growth over a 10-year span. So we asked him to rerun our numbers to only a 3 to 5 year look back, and he did. And so he sent us the updated numbers. And the projections now are right at
42.
42, thank you, students next year. So that's what we're working with now and we'll use for our school projections. But that doesn't impact anything other than the $110 per student
Right.
for school budgets. That doesn't impact any decisions about teacher positions or other services type. But we think that's a much more probably realistic number of where we could be at the 135th day next year. And Dale understood that. He understood why you were asking the question and why the board had had that discussion about it.
So my retort to that is, I hear you loud and clear. We still use that number in some kind of capacity. There's still a belief in that number. My response is, we got to be owners of that number. So if we're using that in some kind of capacity, then I would say Superintendent Young
Yes.
and CFO.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And we had the conversation when we were talking with him. The original numbers he sent us back in January that were based on the current school year 90th day of school, we were right at 18, I believe it was 18,076 students.
65.
65.
76.
And those were the numbers that we used for meeting with the principals and talking about projections. He actually took that number and broke it down by school, by grade level. And those were the numbers that were used to project teacher growth, what we would need for classrooms for next year. So we didn't use the 18,818. We're not using 18,000. We used the 18,065
Correct.
packet of projections by school, by grade level for projecting out what we were going to need in this budget. Does that make sense?
Does.
Yep. So thank you for reminding me to share that with you all.
Did my retort make
Yes.
sense?
Pardon me?
Did my retort make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, because we want to be very careful about that. And we certainly understood the question from you all and the concern about it. And we shared that with Dr. Holden. That's when he said, well, okay, I'll go back and I'm going to tighten my window of what I use for averages. And we said, we think that would be a lot more realistic for our board and our community for next
And
year.
for any future casting going forward to
Yes.
to use what's been more historical for that shorter period of
Yeah.
time
Right.
versus a
Correct.
larger period
Right.
of time.
And that's what we shared with him as well. So,
I got some
yeah, I
questions.
appreciate y'all raising that point because, yeah,
Okay, got some
for
questions.
us to use. Okay.
So how do our staffing ratios compare to these 20 districts, and where are we currently stretched the most? So when I say staffing ratios, teachers, counselors, support staff, administrators, if you don't have an answer
Okay.
to that now, I would love to have the answer to that.
Okay.
So, but
Dr. Waite, do you have anything to share on that, or do we want to look at some numbers? And
We'd have to
Okay.
research.
Yeah.
given our total per pupil spending is lower than more than half of these districts, are we at risk of falling behind in teacher pay, support services, or program quality if we hold mills flat?
Well, I think we are always concerned about teacher pay. What I'm seeing is most of the districts depicted here are going with the $2,000 per sale teacher pay increase that the state is incorporating into the state minimum teacher pay increase. There are a few districts that have really jumped ahead. Beaufort County, they have really jumped ahead. Charleston has really jumped ahead because they were having trouble with recruitment and retaining teachers. But for the most part, certainly those in our surrounding area, we are at or above on teacher pay, so we're happy about that. But we don't want that, no, we do not want that to get behind. We do
And as I
not want
continue-
that to get behind.
Thank you, and as I continue with my questioning, I at least want to make sure I mentioned to you, very good analysis.
Thank you.
I did some have myself on my own.
Yes.
And you've done a good job at this.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to continue with a few questions I
Okay.
have. We're already very lean at the district office based on what I have seen and based off of the information that's been gathered. At what point does remaining this lean begin to compromise our ability to support schools, comply with mandates, or plan strategically?
Well, I think you all have seen us, and I'm going to give you an example. One of the new positions that we are requesting in the budget that is in category 3 is that district webmaster position. That would be housed here at the district office, but that would be serving all of the schools and helping the person at each school that is responsible for their website because of some new federal regulations related to the websites that we had shared with you from Mr. Spittle and Mr. Burke. So I think that comes to mind because I think that's a great example of when we do see that there's a critical need, we do put it on the list. We always prioritize the classrooms, but there have been times where we have added some things. Over the last couple years, we've added to our curriculum department in some specialty areas. So I hope that you would trust us that when you see something on the list, we have given it a lot of thought, and we feel like there is definitely a need. There's probably a compliance issue that we need to stay in full compliance with state or federal regulations, or we feel like it has just risen to that level because of student need or supporting staff in various areas needs as well.
And can I add to that? I think we've seen the value over the last 5 to 6 years of adding instructional coaches, interventionists at the school level instead of at the district level to really support our students at the school level, if that makes sense. Instead of making our district office more heavy, we see the value in adults working directly with kids.
With that in mind, even though our district management spending is low now, what safeguards do we have to ensure that any new revenue continues to prioritize classrooms and does not gradually expand central office overhead?
Well, I think that is where you would see us continue with our leadership of the district, that we are committed to always prioritizing the classroom. I think we've demonstrated evidence of that. And I would not in any way expect you to see us shift our thinking differently. Sometimes, though, there have been needs, and I'm sure there will be in the future, where something does rise to that level that we just need some help here in a certain area.
Well, can I add to that?
Sure.
Because I think that the other side to it is, yes, we as a board have to trust what you all are bringing to us, but it has always been the mission and the priority of this board for as long as I have been in this district, even before sitting here, that classroom education is the priority of Fort Mill School District, and everything else is secondary.
Yes.
I don't anticipate in my lifetime that changing, but
I don't either.
Last question.
Okay.
And you don't need to answer this now, but I would like to have an answer
Okay.
somewhere down the road. If we approve a millage increase, what specific metrics and public reporting will we commit to so the community can see exactly how the additional dollars are used and what impact they have?
Okay. And I'll think about that if I want to expand on that later. But my immediate answer on that is that's one of the reasons why I give you a monthly financial report.
And it's wonderful.
That is the actual expenditures year-to-date to the budget by categories. I feel like that shows to our community and to our taxpayers that we are accountable and that we are monitoring our spend throughout the year, and that we're also alerting you as well as them publicly now if we have any unusual type of happenings, things that come up that aren't planned within the budget as well.
Great, thank you. Superintendent Young
Yes.
and Ms. Lordo, I would lightly challenge you all to, as we continue to evolve, and you all done a wonderful job with how you evolve, continue to challenge the status quo and look at it differently and how you look at this is a business also.
Absolutely.
So, but you're also in the people business, and you all have done a wonderful job. And what I certainly am most pleased with is, as you all have continued from where I see, where I've been a part of helping at least bless some of the positions that you all have put together. I would say that the results, if we're utilizing some of the metrics that are in place that are used across the U.S. and some of the rankings that are there, I think you all have done a wonderful job of that. What I see differently right now is, versus the last handful of years or since I've been on the board, is where I believe there's been a greater growth is that I think you all are unafraid today versus maybe you may have been afraid yesterday, if you will, that we do have some kinks in the armor. And I think you all continue to try to figure out and come up with ways on how you can be the best version of yourselves. And so I have personally seen that, but I'm also here to poke holes at your analysis and all those things. But I would say you did a good job.
Thank you. Please keep asking questions.
Yep. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to add
Okay.
a comment to
Sure.
bouncing off one of Mr. Bode's questions. And Dr. Epps was here for 15 years and did a lot of great things. I will say during that time, the board many times had to push him to shift and think about putting resources at the district office because he was so laser focused on putting the resources to the classroom. But sometimes it works better to have a resource at the district level that can serve all the schools, depending upon what the role is. Unlike, I mean, the example you gave there is good to be at the school. And, but then sometimes you get those people in and you need to collaborate, you need to coordinate all them, and then there brings in a person to help do that, especially when you end up now going from probably 9 schools back then to 22 now. You know, it's a little different animal that we're dealing with. Other thing I'd like to remind or bring up is that the budget that you put together it's focused around the strategic plan that
Yes.
we work on every year. And we've said it before, but I just want to bring it up
Yes.
again.
So, and we have tied every new request to the piece of the strategic plan that it aligns with as
And
well.
that strategic plan is built not only by staff and us, but the community
Correct.
members that
Right.
participate in that.
Yes.
All right, I've got a bunch of questions. I feel like Anthony Bodie tonight. So, but with that being said, well, first of all,
Yeah.
the extra information and the additional work that you put in between last session and this session and providing this information was extremely helpful and very appreciative. I know the board is very appreciative of the additional work and numbers here. I just want to understand, so you said 8.5,
Correct.
which is roughly 3.4 million.
Yes.
Okay, so just on its surface, with a $272 million budget, with all things being equal, we are asking for a tax increase of a little under 1.5%,
Correct.
right? And I can't think of too many businesses that operate in a staffing model with operational costs where their year-over-year business, if everything is equal year over year, that hasn't gone up 1.5%, right? So on its surface, 8.5 is amazing that that's what we're able to do with. I was going to suggest, well, first of all, I want to ask, how long again can we go back for those unused
3
mills?
years.
3 years. Okay, I just want to make sure we keep.
So at this point, we have no 3-year look back because we don't have any carryover millage.
Right.
But this would start the first year of 3 years going forward.
Good. All right, so my question is, if it's 3.4, and I understand we need to approve a balanced budget, we need to look at all of this. I was going to suggest we actually start voting by category So we approve category 1 stuff.
Okay.
Category 2 stuff. But my question is, why aren't we just taking a huge ticket item by, let's say, certified staff salary increases and saying that is specifically what we're raising taxes for? And make that our priority, and everything else is part of the balanced budget. Why aren't we going about it in that method instead of looking at these lists where we're pulling and we're saying we're going to consolidate and we're going to move positions to cover this category 4 stuff? Like, why aren't we?
So we could take, I could take that millage and I could subdivide it to every single line item. But there's also some built-in new revenue just from growth. There's some built-in new revenue from tax growth, from a few other small categories. The largest is going to be tax growth, and then a few other small state categories outside of state-aided classrooms. But generally, the way I approach it is category 1 are things that I feel like I have to say to you, we need to fund these things. It's things that like technology contracts that we have committed to, but they're based on either our number of students or they're based on our number of teachers. And so there's going to be an inflationary increase next year. There's utility maintenance cost increases. There's, for transportation, the cost of gas, we all know. So it's things, I keep category 1 to only those type of items, and that's why I group it together like that. Things that I think truly we're going to spend, we need to just plan for it. So I can let you know what the cost of that is.
I think what you're asking though is why don't we internally
Why don't we
balance the
just look
budget?
at, balancing the budget,
I
voting
see what you're
on
saying.
all these additional things that we need,
Yes,
but tagging the $3.4 million millage increase
yes,
is for these specific
these
items,
things.
right? Because if you look at
And we can
category
do,
1,
we can break it
only-
down like that. Sure.
only 8 mills are going
Right.
towards all those category 1 items. So I was going to say we should vote by category, but my thought is we should take something like the high school testing coordinators,
Yes.
which is about a $500,000,
Yes,
and move it on to category 1 and just vote on this list, and everything else is being funded by the budget,
okay. We can present it that way.
right? And then that's your 8.5
Sure.
increase. That would be my
Yes.
suggestion, or keep this list and we're basically taking bits and pieces and vote by category. But I do think,
You would rather vote by line item.
Make it more à la carte.
I would rather, that was what I came in tonight thinking, but after kind of looking at this and seeing that we were at 8.5, I think we really only need one list, and that's category 1 plus like a $500,000 increase for high school testing coordinators.
Okay,
That would be my
I understand.
suggestion, but
Yeah.
Because they have offset so many
Because we've
mills with
offset-
all
Correct.
the attrition
Yes.
and work that the
Correct.
staff has put in.
yes.
So I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
how everybody else feels about that, but
I want a couple things. I would love it if this information that you worked so hard to help us answer our questions about those category 1 items, if we could share that on the website.
Sure,
for the public
absolutely.
to see.
I know Mr. Burke is helping me, and he's going to use a lot of this data. We want to have more of a public message on our website just about our budget and our tax situation and our growth, and
mean, To
combine it
me,
all
this looks
together.
like the district has been good stewards
Yes.
of the money
Yes.
that we.
So we are going to put some narrative with these graphs.
But I
And
think to
make
share
it public on our website as kind of our story.
And then just, I mean, I know we could go item by item. I think that could happen, but Dr. Frateroli and I were talking today, just something as simple as the high school #1 priority for the testing coordinator. We asked questions and got answers and understand that, but could you speak to that largely for the public so we can understand what that is freeing up and why that is needed? Or Could Dr.
Oh,
Racer,
yes.
somebody
Yes,
speak to that?
please.
That position specifically?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay,
That's
so-
one that I have received
Yes.
questions.
Do you want to come up here?
Yeah.
So you're on.
Specifically about, I know Dr. Federoli has as well.
So the top request from the high schools is to add a high school a testing coordinator for the school. And I think the first thing, I don't think everyone always thinks about the additional testing that goes on at a high school compared to our other grade bands. The EOC testing is twice a year, so that's doubling what we would maybe see with SC Ready. So that's a lot there. They have the PSAT, the SAT, the ACT, ASVAB twice a year. The seal of biliteracy, that's for our students that are trying to get basically like a certification in a foreign language is an easy way to describe it. That happens twice a year. And our AP exams, we give hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of AP exams. So just the bulk of the amount of testing is a lot higher. Those are in addition to the things that all of our schools do, like our CERC data, that's our like our behavior screening, things along those lines. The surveys from the State Department, the climate surveys, all of our schools give those. So there's a lot of additional, and I think I did not mention the WIN testing, which is our career readiness assessment. That's a state assessment that's given twice a year to the high school students. So a lot of things along those lines, and we tried to do a calendar of the high school testing schedule, and it's every month or something. I think in September there's not, but literally every other month there's something that is going on as far as testing. So if they're able to have a position, one, it kind of makes it easier to coordinate the training and the work between our department and the schools because it's one single person. Right now, the administrators do some of it, the school counselors do some of it, and that's fine, it works, but it just makes it a little bit messier because there's a lot more people involved. And especially with our high school testing, that's very high stakes. And we can't have any mistakes. We can't have any errors. So those are some of the reasons just for the testing part. But another big part of this person's position would be looking at the cohort data. So there's a lot of exchanging of data between the district and the State Department for our graduation rate especially, but also some of the other state testing at the high school level. And we had to ensure that we are giving them perfect data and they're giving us back perfect data because it impacts our school report cards and our graduation rate. So right now, how that works is our department and Power School, they try to coordinate all this. They call it cohort data verification. And I have really no idea what that exactly means. But I know it means like having clean data on both sides. So there's a lot of folks at the district office working on that, but we really need a point person at the school that can live that as well, just to assist with that. So those are some of the day-to-day things. The testing would be almost every single month except for the one. They would also work on things like being able to look at student data and communicate that to school leadership and help school leadership look at ways to improve student achievement. I never like comparing the levels because every level has unique needs, but the high school level, they don't have a lead teacher. They don't have the math specialist, the ELA specialist. So there's not really a point person to coordinate the data. Usually an administrator takes that on. But this would have a position that we can communicate with from the district level that can communicate back with the school and help the school look at their school renewal plans, their strategic plans, and use the data more effectively to impact that.
So this position would actually free up the administrators and guidance counselors who are currently wearing those hats
Yes.
each month to do
Right.
the job we hired them
Yes. And another thing with that, with our new dual credit pathways with Winthrop and USCL and York Tech, that is a lot of work and that's falling to a school counselor. So that's just another additional duty that school counselors had to pick up. And of course we support them when we run it from the district, but somebody at the school has to run it also. So that would be another duty. And I think you asked about ratios with our positions. Our counselors, as you all know, are already stretched very, very thin. And I would say we probably have the best ratios in the state with our counselors, but it's still not where it needs to be. So this would take some of that work that they are not necessarily passionate about because they want to work with students, not with testing. This will give somebody that job to help free up our counselors as well.
Thank
And we were talking about it today. There was a high school support position that was in a category last year that didn't get into the final category on the budget. So I know this is something that they've been requesting, similar support type position for a couple of years now, so.
Thank you. I think it just helps to clear that up and to hear, for everybody to hear what
Right.
we heard about it. And then last time we were asking about a comparison maybe between overall student growth and our growth in students who need extra instructional support.
Yes. Yeah, so I pulled a couple things. One, it's sometimes hard to pinpoint exactly what causes an outcome, but I think we have a unique opportunity with Banks Trail. We had a Title I funded math interventionist last year, and they were the only middle school to have that. This year we have 3, and next year we'll have 1 at each middle school. But looking at just the year when only Banks Trail had a math interventionist, they had a 9% increase in their SC Ready math scores, and our other middle schools, which is great because it's an increase, but they had 2% growth. And with an interventionist, we can't say it's only because of the interventionist, although she is awesome. They had a 9%, and that was the only difference, is they had that position added in. And also their median annual growth target, which is very technical, but that shows like if a student's expected growth for a year, they went up 13 percentage points, and the students meeting their annual growth from the year before. And again, the only difference is that instructional coach and a lot of support from our department, I'd like to say too, but position-wise, that one person was different, and that led to huge increases. Our special education students, we've added a lot of special ed coaches over the last couple years. We looked at their SE Ready data, so this is grades 3 through 8. And I have a handout. I could send this to you guys after. In 2018, our special education students, we looked at their SE Ready ELA data compared to from 2018. I said, let's look from before COVID. Let's look at 2022, 2023 school year, and then let's look at last school year. It's almost tripled. The percentage of our students with disability scoring meets or exceeds. It went from 12.5 all the way up to almost 32.99%. In math, it was growth as well. It mirrors our overall math scores are not growing as much as ELA since COVID, but they increased also about 3 percentage points over the same amount of time. Our teachers, our special services department, we send a survey out to the teachers, and 88% of the teachers that responded rated the helpfulness of their coach either a 4 or a 5 out of 5, doing things like helping them with prepare for IEP meetings, how to teach inclusion, co-teaching lessons. Still lots of room to grow, of course, but I think that's some really good feedback. So those are 2 areas that I pulled to show some of the impacts. Also, our ESOL numbers. We've added a lot of coaches over the years with ESOL because our numbers have grown. And we are right at about the state recommendation if we add the 1 teacher this year. But consistently, we're the highest performing with our ML students, our multi-language learner students from the state. Almost all of our schools are all the schools that are rated. You have to have a certain number of students. They're all usually either average, good, or excellent, and most are good or excellent over the years. So I think just that the money we're putting into that is showing us results with some of our students that need a lot of extra support, and we're still leading the state even in those areas.
So your sheer number and in need, or actually the number in that particular category has increased, and you have also increased.
Yes.
But
Yeah. So, for example, from the 23-24 school year, we had 1,850 ML students, multi-language students. 24-25, we had 1,990, and 25-26, where we have 2,021. And the state has a recommended ratio of 60-1. So for every 60 ML students, 1 ESOL teacher, and we always stay right at about that ratio, and I think it pays off. And when people talk to Amber, who is over the ESOL program, when they're like, what's our secret? Because people from across the state ask us that, and she said, well, we put a lot of resources into it, and we have enough teachers. And they all do a really great job, so I don't think it's just that, but she tries to be humble with it. But it does make a difference. If you have a ratio of 60-1, you're going to get better results than when you have a district that has like 100-1 or 90-1. You're going to see a better outcome. So those are some examples that I pulled for that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So aside from the increase in the student performance, which is kudos to all of them and the staff that gets them there, one of the questions that I had previously, and I think we've had some of the information, but I was hoping to see a little more in-depth of what's the amount of students that we have seen an increase in needing to be assessed for interventions, whether it's language, it's behavioral, it's whichever it happens to fall into. I know just from the different things and pieces and updates that we receive that we always have a very high number of students that need to be evaluated or assessed. But what does that look like when we talk hard turkey numbers year to year? So for instance, we just said we went from 1,850 to 2021 in 3 years' time of our language learners. How many SPED students have we added while our growth maybe has been stagnant?
Right.
How many more extra services are we providing, and how many extra students are we evaluating because of?
Yeah. Would you happen to know those numbers?
Not specific numbers,
I know.
but I think one of the last meetings, our growth has not been as significant as it has been in years past, but it is the intensity of the needs of the students that we're seeing more. So
can you give a little more for better understanding when you say intensity? Give me some. I'm not looking for Susie and Johnny. I'm looking for, what are we talking about intensity?
Intensity of behavior.
Yeah.
The number of requests that we get for one-on-ones has skyrocketed over the past several years. It's either because they're coming from a different state and we're required to provide comparable services, or they just need that additional one-on-one support just to function, whether it's in a regular ed classroom or a special ed classroom.
And what that ultimately then does is it creates a ramification to everyone, whether it's that student or the other students in the classroom, when we can or cannot provide that, or they qualify or they don't qualify.
Correct. I think you would hear that, the impact is not just for that student, it is for every student in that class.
Yeah, if I got.
And I think can I go over it? I think you all know this, but when we are just for the community at large, when we have a one-on-one, that's hiring an additional person.
Right.
So that's hiring an aide that is assigned to one student, and their job is that one student.
Right.
So that's the level of support that more and more of our students are needing. Like Dr. Maziar said, whether they're coming from another state and that's already part of their IEP, or we're recognizing that here they need that support for their level of whatever it is that we're working on them with, so that the one-to-one shadow is an extra position.
Dr. Maziarz, do you remember, it's been a few weeks, but you gave a number of how many instructional assistants we had, maybe it was 10 years ago compared to now, and it was
Staggering.
yeah, it was staggering.
Instructional assistants or one-on-ones?
One-on-ones,
All
so
of the
sorry.
above.
I can't remember, I thought you said it was like 4 in the district to like 200.
I will say, yeah, probably 10 years ago, it was single digits. It is now 60 plus.
60.
But 10 years ago, you had,
Less students.
And a whole lot more
And-
state funding.
Yeah.
Well, there's
true,
that.
But it's just amazing how many one-on-ones are needed. The percentage-wise just baffled me.
I have
And
a
this
question.
isn't isolated here. I'm hearing, this is across
Yeah, oh, yeah,
the country
absolutely.
that
It's all
the
over.
level of need is just,
So every year we've come to the budget And I feel like Leanne always says something to the tune of, Dr. Magyars wants 15, but I was able to give her 2. You know, something like that. Right. And,
I think it was 29.
okay. So has it are we seeing kind of the same, the intensity, the behavior? It's just we're having to year over year just kind of to fill it up to where you were originally wanting it to be.
I would say no. I mean, legitimately, these are the students that are moving in. I mean, many of them are from the north. Taxes are very much higher in the north. So a lot of them are just coming in with one-on-ones. So until we have data to take it away, legally we can't. So.
Got it.
But yes, my budget requests always exceed what Ms. Lordo can approve.
And I guess my point of asking that was, okay, let's say 10 years ago we had 10,000 students, 11,000 students, and we're at 18 now. We still went from 4 to 60
Right.
one-on-ones. I mean, that grew by a crazy percentage. Sorry, I can't do the math in my head that quick, but.
Yeah, nothing.
Anybody else have any questions for anyone? Thank you.
Yeah.
Back in the hot seat. Ms.
For
Lordo.
Leanne, can I jump back to you really
Sure,
quick?
absolutely.
So it's 8.5, and as it all shakes out, that covers category 1 through 5.
Correct.
I do want to.
Other than increasing, category 5 did have, because you always ask, if you went the full 19.7 millage, what would we do? What would be our recommendation? And so the other piece of category 5 had an additional 2.5 million going into the contingency fund, which would help us because this budget plan does require us to pull 3.5 million out for the opening of Flint Hill Middle School. So if you went the full millage, that would be our recommendation, is not adding any additional items, but using it towards reducing that amount of dependency on the contingency fund.
Got it. So, so help me understand this. So I guess I think that's great. Like if we can do everything for what was just the first category, right? Like that's what I wanted. Like that's awesome. And just to Dr. Fraterelli's point, that the test coordinator, yeah, if we have all 3 number 1 requests coming from our, I feel like that should
Yes,
be.
we have, with this budget plan, thank you for reminding me to say that again. We have met the number 1 high school request were the testing coordinator positions. The number 1 middle school request were to complete our plan to have a middle school math interventionist at each middle school. And we have actually repurposed FTEs to do that. So we are accomplishing meeting their number 1 request. And then the number 1 elementary principals, collectively, their request was to have an elementary math coach at each of the elementary schools. And so we determined we were able to repurpose 4 FTEs already to go towards that. And that's why I had 4 additional in category 4. So that will enable us to have an elementary math coach at each of our elementary schools next year. So I feel like we have met the number 1 request for each of the grade bands. And we've also, through a couple of the other things, we have met the most critical request of the departments as well for next year.
So, yeah, that's great. So I guess my, still be a little bit of a concern. I know we like to say, we don't want to leave money on the table. So I'm very pleased with this. I think it's great. As long as we stay right here, I think this is phenomenal, because I think we have a great opportunity to keep this stuff in our back pocket. That's a lot. That if we do run into an issue on a budgetary item, we have this for the next 3 years to be able to hold on to.
Correct, because we will have to work ourselves, if we use the 3.5 million out of the one-time funds, we will have to replace that with recurring dollars in the future. as well as very quickly, we will be looking at the opening of the Early Childhood Center as well.
Yeah.
Those are the big things that we will be working with in future budgets going forward.
And I think just to say this, I know I said this at the York County Chamber event, I think we've got to continue to advocate for change at the state level so that we don't have to get into a part where we have to go back and get millage or raise millage, a heavy increase. So I think we've got to come together and continue to advocate for change.
$76 million worth of change and difference based on what was put in place with Act 388 in 2007.
Yes. Yes, our current annual deficit, if we were collecting taxes on homes, is 78 million. That's a lot of tax millage we could reduce.
For offset.
What's the 2.5 million contingency translate into in mills?
That is, what's 2.5 divided by
Something.
6 point something. Thank you.
It's close enough. I'm just getting it.
Yes.
Is there, how can we evolve with how we communicate? I mean, I know there's information out there on what's happened over time versus what we were getting from state versus local taxation. I just would challenge you all, challenge us, in how we can communicate that story with authenticity to the public, because I think at the end of the day that's critical. And for me, I can't continue looking our business folks in the eyes and folks that have been around for a long time and saying that our way of handling this is constantly increasing
Yes,
millage.
and that's what I had mentioned earlier. That's what Mr. Burke and I are working on. He already had a plan to help develop more of an in-depth story that we can put out there publicly, just related to our budgets, our growth, what we've had to do, reduction in state funding, and those type of things too, which I believe is what you're asking us as well.
And
So-
I want to say this too. Ms. Lordo and I have had these conversations with business owners, and I think it would be helpful for us to bring them in, invite them into some sort of meeting to where we can show them what we're up against from a state level funding. And hopefully we can get them to help us advocate for better funding at the state
Yeah,
level.
because it is not that the value is not there with what you've presented at all, but there's a reality to it. And I mean, we can sit up here all day long and say, well, you know, I'm voting to raise my own taxes. Well, sorta. You know, we really don't run a small business around here. It is a different ballgame. We're squeezing such a small group for like more every year, and there's not really a way to just the reality is we don't get the funding. That's who we have to go to. We don't get to say where it comes from. We just know what we need.
And we recognize that, and that's why we try to be so careful, and we are careful with where we start in January and what we bring to you as our administrative recommendation for the budget, because we're well aware of that. We're also very willing, as Superintendent Young mentioned, we're very willing to speak to any groups. If you have any connections with any groups who would be interested in us speaking about this in more detail to help them understand business related, we are glad to do that. Help them understand.
Go ahead.
So, and I just was writing a note, so I did not short circuit it. You know, to your point, Joe, you're right. And what's really difficult and hard to share and express and understand for people in general is in a state that wants to be pro-business and business friendly and give fee in lieu and all kinds of other things, that doesn't recognize that you strap those businesses because of the way you fund certain things, such as education, when 5 years ago the state, through their budget, paid 70% of our budget to educate children And now it's almost 70% on the backs of our businesses. Help me understand someone how that is business friendly, because in my world as a business owner, it's not.
And as a part of telling that story to the community with authenticity, I think there's a value proposition that's there. And I just think at the end of the day, I think we have to communicate with the public with pertinent and transparent information that they can understand clearly. And I'm done talking. So,
We agree.
yes.
We agree.
You
That's
agree I
that's
said
our
that?
next project. That's our next project.
Oh,
Thank you, Leanne.
all right, you are our next fun topic as well.
Okay, so I have a couple things to share with you. These won't be as long, I hope, as the budget, that will be on your June agenda for approval. The first one is the approval of transfers for the year ended June 30th, 2026. As you know, we try to maintain our general fund balance around 18 to 19% of the next year's planned budgeted expenditures. The board policy requires us to keep 2 months, which is 16%, but I keep just a little bit more. And what that does is it enables us not to have to go out and borrow funds for cash flow before taxes come in the November, December, January timeframe. That's why I use 18 to 19%. But I'm very comfortable if we see revenues come in over budget to ask you to consider allocating those for some one-time type expenditures. These are not recurring costs. These are one-time type expenditures. And many of these you have seen year after year, and these are things also that have never quite made it into the general fund budget, hasn't made it onto one of those category lists. But this year, I am projecting that we've had a very good tax collection year. So it's a combination of tax collections, interest earnings have still been very favorable this year for us, but in total, it's about 9.5 million. Now, as our budget number has increased, that is a larger number, but as a percentage of our total budget, it's relative. Do you see what I mean? Of where we are ending the year. I'd much rather be standing here sharing this with you than saying we aren't covering our budget for the year. But in looking at that, what our recommendation would be, and most of these items you've seen before, it is covering our district-wide ebook media center collections to stay in compliance with the state requirements. So Mr. Spittle has projected that using 18,245 students at $8 per student. So that's $145,960. The next item is our school small capital purchases. Those are for things that the schools submit during the budget process that are a little too expensive for them to cover out of what I call their school budget, their $110 per pupil allocation. But it's things that would never go on a future bond referendum. It's this kind of midpoint things. And the schools are very, very appreciative of what we've been able to do for them. I can tell you that the requests submitted this year total about 350,000. And so Ms. Keniston and I are going to start looking at that this week and try to determine what the highest priorities are for next year. But I have kept it at 250,000. The next item is for some school furniture replacements, 246,700. These are things that are requested among 16 of our schools. And they vary from a $2,000 item to a $25,000 item. They can be student desks, chairs, a conference room table that needs to be replaced, the front area when people walk in, those type of furniture items. It covers a lot of different furniture items. The next item, it was on our list last year. We did phase one. It's our digital student record scanning project. This is for withdrawn students, and this is where the schools started saying to us, I have boxes and boxes from all the years that, what can I do with these? Because we're required by law to keep them indefinitely. So this would be phase two of that project. The next item is something new. This is a piece of software through a company called School Mint, and they specialize in this product for managing inter-district transfer requests and the lottery system. And we can also use this, curriculum has said, this would be a great option for them to help them with the new additional dual credit pathways programs that you have heard about and approved that we are going to be doing with USC Lancaster, York Technical College, and Winthrop next year. So this software would kind of accomplish all of that and help us with from the application process to the actual lottery process on selection of students. The next item is $40,000 for new pre-K classroom setup. As we've talked about tonight, we're going to add 4 new pre-K classrooms. The next item you've seen for several years is the middle school athletics equipment replacement for next year. They have submitted their request, and I kind of laughed when I looked at it. Corey sent it. It's like $59,900 and some dollars. I said, well, that's pretty close to what I estimated at $60,000. The next 3 items are curriculum related. You've seen these 2. These are things that have not made it into the recurring budget for curriculum related to various areas. The third item for STEAM funding, they said, since I submitted this to you, that they are gonna, would like to shift that more toward middle school math tutoring. Because as you know from the budget, we are really working on math next year. And so they would like to use that for math tutoring and helping to continue to close the achievement gap next year. And then the next item was one that was added last year when Superintendent Young came into his role. You approved a first-year initiative for him, and he would like to continue that next year and has various plans for how he will spend that for the district. And then the last item is that $3.5 million that we need to put into the contingency fund that we will then pull out for the opening of Flint Hill Middle School. So the year-end transfer request would total $4,589,470. I'm glad to answer any questions, and I would ask that I can put this on your approval agenda for the next meeting.
So the $100,000. How'd it go?
Awesome. So we used, obviously the, which I talked about at the beginning of the year, the Tony Carey project of engagement, used some of the money for that. And then we started the middle school math tutoring program in January, and that has been going well. Obviously, we don't know all the results of that because they're taking state testing currently. So would love to continue that and do that for a full year. Once we get those test results back, identify those students that need that extra tutoring. And so that money will go quick with just that portion of it. But we'd also like to continue the engagement program with Mr. Carey, and also possibly look at some professional development stuff with our behavior training that we want to do.
So that was just a test run with Carey, right? Like that was just at the one school,
Well, he ended up doing it at all 3 high schools.
Oh, he did do it at all 3.
But he did. It was a little more intensive at Catawba Ridge, and we saw a 20% increase in student engagement.
That's awesome.
Just
Oh.
That's awesome.
from him meeting with students, offering, and we've got some plans for that, and we could use some of those funds for that. Doing 2 club rushes, doing some stuff at the middle school next year to get students. Our 9th grade students are obviously the ones that are not involved as much as our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And a lot of that is because lack of information. They don't know about the opportunities. So, in introducing these at the IGP meetings with parents, doing some club rush at the 8th grade level to get them involved in high school clubs before they even get there. So, we've got a lot of plans to continue that, and real excited about it.
Question I have a question for Mrs. Spittle. So there's the category of.
Wake up.
I'll be easy.
I'm not scared.
Not scared.
Hey, so what keeps you up at night? I deal with this. Reword the question.
My children.
Yeah.
I'm an empty nester and they're home for the summer. They're on a different schedule than me.
Yeah, they are.
Gotcha. So your department all over the U.S., K through 12s are getting attacked, ransomware, all this stuff. Can you kind of just give us a little bit of how are we mitigating some of this? Not giving the details, but just giving us high level.
Sure.
And when there's an opportunity that somewhere months from now that you can present to us, kind of your world.
Sure. So, education is actually the most targeted industry by far, which is surprising to a lot of people, more so than healthcare, banks, all of that. So we have a lot of layers of security. We are currently engaged in 2 projects to increase our security, both physically here within the district and in the cloud. So it is something we are constantly monitoring, we are constantly auditing, and we are constantly responding to in real time. So, I mean, we don't go a week without an attack. We probably don't go a day without an attack. And they have certainly changed over the last 7 or 8 years. A lot more sophisticated now, but I don't really want to go into any specifics about what we're doing, but definitely schools are a target. I mean, there was another very public breach the past 2 weeks. Fortunately, we don't use that product, so we were not affected.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions on year-end transfer?
Nope.
Okay. All right, Ms. Lordo, you want to talk to us about a budget?
Sure. So this is something new. You haven't seen this before, and I can only remember one time in our history that we did a budget amendment, and it was in the summer, and it was due to something that significantly changed at the state level. I believe it was with teacher pay. So it is not customary for you all to amend the budget once you pass it for the fiscal year, but this is a recommendation that comes from our audit firm, Green Finney Cawley, and specifically from David Phillips, and he began discussing this with me at the end of our audit last year, and it is due to a new national accounting standard. It's called a GASB, that's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They have issued a new pronouncement called Financial Reporting Model Improvements, and it's going to take effect this fiscal year, and it's going to require us as the client and auditors to really do more detailed explanation of what they call significant differences in a board-approved budget and the actual financial results. And so he recommended that you all do a formal budget amendment before the end of the fiscal year that then would more clearly indicate your approval of like the year-end transfers, because there's millions of dollars there. And that way it won't look like it's a budget variance where you never budgeted that at the beginning of the fiscal year, but you approve the actual expenditure. And he is recommending that you also amend the budget to match that. And so it reduces the number of variances. as I shared with you, it confirms that we're operating within the legally approved spending authority. And it demonstrates just, I think, us being proactive with our transparency to the public in matching up the budget to the actual for these higher dollar amounts. So to align the budget that you previously passed, so the budget we've been operating under this year is $254,487,140. The amended revenue and expenditure budget would be $263,988,036. And so it would be in the form of us making a recommendation to you to amend the budget to conform with your approved year-end transfers, that would then align better for our audit.
Okay.
I'm sure that is very confusing. but-
So they said we're not detailed enough.
Well, the way, if we don't ask you to formally approve the budget, we're gonna have a column where we are transferring the money, the actual expenditures, and we're gonna have potentially zero in the budget column, and it's gonna show as a negative as a variance. Now, we could put a description in our audit report and explain it, but unless you really, just to the reader, it may be very difficult to understand that. And that's why the audit firm is recommending that you formally amend the budget to match that.
And that costs that much just to do that?
Well, it doesn't cost, like, if you look at the expenditures, this is based on what we were just discussing, the year-end transfer request, which is the $4,589,000.
Okay.
And then what we're gonna increase the fund balance by to keep our fund balance at the 18 to 19%.
Right.
So this difference accounts for our projected revenues coming in over budget.
Right. Because our property
that
tax,
help?
our local property tax, which is mostly driven by vehicles
Yes.
or boats, but vehicles,
Yeah.
was that much greater than what we budgeted for.
A year ago.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is really just one of those kind of accounting things.
Yeah.
It's not- I mean, it's
I
not-
have on my accounting hat and,
It would be one thing. but you're
yes.
Talking about $9 million.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this sounds like a very, very well marketed money grab, is what it sounds
But it's
like.
it's no change in the plan, it's no new expenditures, it's gonna match what,
Assuming that we pass the year-end
assuming that you pass
transfer,
the year-end
it's saying
transfer.
Put the year-end transfer back in your budget to show what you did with the. extra.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Yes,
Got it.
yes,
Okay, that makes sense.
yes. No other plan, no
Okay.
other, you're not authorizing any additional
Okay.
It's like,
spend.
it's like if you got a bonus at the year end, that doesn't exist in education, but I've heard of them in banking. But if you got that, then you might add that into your family budget after you took the
Correct.
cruise to Tahiti or whatever you banker people do.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Right? That's what
Yes,
we're showing.
that's a
what
great
we did with the
example.
money.
Yes.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
You're just formally accounting for the additional revenue and then how you're gonna spend it.
Okay.
On
I
the
take back
budget,
I take back my comment.
on the budget side. To match the actual.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions about
No, ma'am.
a budget amendment? Okay. Now, we get a new face, right?
Are you sure you don't want to
No,
continue?
we don't. We don't get
No,
a new face.
you don't get a new face yet.
You don't get a new face.
Okay,
I
I'll
like
quickly
your
go through
face
this.
so much,
Okay.
Ms.
So
Lord. What would
I'm
you like
doing
to
the
talk to
first,
us about?
I'm doing the first policy recommended change. So the federal, Office of Management and Budget is called the OMB. They've published some updates to, what we call the Uniform Grant Guidance. And this is related to federal grants that we receive. And one of the changes requires us to have more details about reporting and specifically whistleblower protections. So this is a federal requirement that we have been asked to put into our policy. or well, I hate, we've been asked, but this is one of those things that we will get dinged on if we have an audit on our federal programs. But it is specifically related to these areas. And I will share with you that I did reach out to the South Carolina School Boards Association, to Rashida, and talked with her, Rashida Cleveland. She's the Director of Policy and Legal Services for you at the School Boards Association. And I asked her, I told her that we were recommending some wording changes and additions to our federal compliance policy. And I asked her, does the School Boards Association have a template yet? And she said, no, not yet. She's working on that this summer. But she said, if you'll send me your wording, I'll be glad to review it. And I did. And she read it and responded back and said she felt like it was gonna be in compliance with the requirements. Because I felt like you would want to know that we had checked with them as well on policy wording. But this is, we have added this section to an existing policy, the DDA, Federal Fiscal Compliance Policy, that we have had since, I think, 2020. But this, these couple paragraphs that we're adding to this policy are related to these areas. One is the employee reporting duty. So it says all employees must immediately report any federal fund mismanagement up the chain of command, and the superintendent's designee would initiate the investigation. The second piece is public reporting. It says that the public may anonymously report concerns to the superintendent, management, or any department head. Confidentiality, all investigations will be handled with utmost confidentiality, and no information can be shared with the media without the superintendent's approval.
Does that include FOIA requests?
I would say yes. I would say yes. The whistleblower protections, that employees are protected from retaliation for reporting. If they report gross mismanagement or waste of federal funds, or if they feel like there's abuse of authority, public safety dangers, or legal violations, and that we as a district must notify all employees in writing of these whistleblower protection rights. And then the last piece is false allegations, and it says that principals and department heads must discourage false, malicious reports, and violators are subject to disciplinary action. And this has to do with things like some common examples of mismanagement of federal funds. It could be that an item was purchased under a grant that's not allowed. It could be a personal item was purchased. It could be that someone is splitting purchases to avoid bidding thresholds, because you know under the state procurement code and our procurement code, we can't split bids to be under the bidding thresholds. It could be that we're charging staff salaries to a federal grant and that staff is not actually working on the grant. Could be something like that. It could be that someone is submitting a reimbursement request for expenses that weren't actually incurred and they're charging it to the grant. And it could be that we're awarding a contract to a vendor that someone has a personal relationship with a business friend, something like that. Those are just some examples. I thought you might want to know, well, what are you talking about, mismanagement of federal funds? Those are the kind of things when we have a federal program audit and they sample our expenditures, these are the kind of things that they look for.
Can you go up one
Sure.
slide?
Up one slide.
The public reporting. Public may anonymously report concerns to the superintendent, management, or any department head. How do you keep that in perspective? Like, that seems like it could get out of control pretty quickly.
I think we will have to determine a way that on our website, or we'll set up an email, but we have to allow that. We have to allow that with these new federal requirements
I mean, that sounds like it's gonna turn into like a position in itself.
And then we'll see who the superintendent's designee to initiate the investigation is.
Ms. Lord.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, I hope these are far and few between. We are extremely, extremely careful with federal funds, and the departments that manage federal funds, extremely, extremely careful. And of course, the bookkeepers that help us in those areas truly understand all the regulations. So, but they're, yes,
I got you. Yeah.
we can report back to you. We'll see how this goes.
We'll never be able to prevent, one would hope that if there is a consistent, frequent flyer, that a legal authority could intervene.
Well, I just, I'm thinking about how much time and effort goes into, like, just take SILFAB, for instance, for our team. It's a lot that just goes into this, like a job in itself.
Yes.
Right?
But all of these key points are specific requirements under the federal regulation that we're putting here. We use the exact wording
And
to,
for-
to make sure we meet the federal
for
regulation.
how we use federal money, which we don't really get very
Right.
much.
Don't get a whole
Tiny
lot.
Percentage.
It's a lot of hoopla
Yeah.
for a little tiny bit.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions about this policy?
No.
And so you'll
Okay.
be bringing that to us for
Yes.
approval next time.
Correct. Thank you.
And now we say au revoir and bienvenidos for another discussion of policy revisions.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I'm bringing forward to you proposed revisions to 3 policies. Policy IIB on class size, policy JCA assignment of students to schools, and policy JFB on school choice. I'll walk you through the purpose behind these revisions and what the proposed changes include. Oh, it went the right way. Great. Let me start by giving you some context. There are 3 reasons in particular about these revisions that I want to bring to your attention. First, as you know, the state will have a South Carolina interdistrict transfer policy that will take effect in the 27-28 school year. That policy requires districts to accept students from outside their boundaries under certain conditions. It's important that we have our own policies aligned before that's in place and before that deadline arrives. Second, in anticipation of that mandate, we reviewed whether or not we could offer a lottery-based choice program, allowing our residents, families to have some choice before those outside of our boundaries would have that opportunity based on schools with available capacity. Third, and most critically important to this design, is that this is designed to be budget neutral, meaning that enrollment through any lottery-based school choice option or non-resident interdistrict option would not require the hiring of additional staff or the incurring of new programmatic cost. The first policy we're going to take a look at is IIB, class size. The proposed revisions adjust the district's recommended student-to-teacher ratios for 3 of our 4 grade bands. Now, it's important to note these ratios are based on district-wide averages. So individual schools and classrooms may fluctuate, but the district's commitment is to maintaining balance across the grade levels. The target ratio serves as a framework for the equitable redistribution of students across existing classrooms working within the district's current structure. The goal is not to increase the number of classrooms or positions, but to ensure that student distribution reflects what the evidence and research tells us about conditions teachers need to meet the diverse needs of our students. I think you heard Dr. Maziar speak to that earlier. monitor their progress with precision, and respond to differentiating instruction effectively. How they work is that class ratios reflect the aggregate average across the core instructional programs. So for example, a ratio of 21:1 in kindergarten through grade 3 does not mean that when you walk down the hall, every classroom you see will have exactly 21 students. Rather, one classroom might have 20 students, one might have 19 students, another may have 21. But when you total that number of students across a given grade level and divide it by the number of core instructional teachers, that overall ratio is as close to that recommended rate in board policy as possible. This approach gives our principals the flexibility and autonomy to thoughtfully assign students, to ensure appropriate matches between students and peer groups, and to support their academic success and create positive classroom dynamics. One particular piece of language I want to bring your attention to is that the new enrollment protection language, this revision adds an important safeguard that no student would be admitted under the interdistrict transfer process, the non-resident interdistrict transfer process, or through our own limited school choice program if doing so would cause any grade band to go over that particular recommended ratio. I'm going to speak to 2 additional policies, and I think these all kind of work in coordination. So if you're okay with it, I'll continue along. Is that okay?
Can I get clarification? real
Yes,
quick?
sure.
So if we are over, let's say a kid moves into Fort Mill and we are over that average, they're still getting to go?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
if they are outside our bounds and they want to come here, they are not allowed to if it is going over our number.
You got it. If I were a teacher in the classroom, I would be so proud. We just checked for understanding, and you got it. You got it. You're exactly right.
But can I add something?
Clarify, yeah.
Understand that the non-resident transfer in 27-28, when that begins, they'll only have one time throughout the year to apply for that.
Right.
So if our class sizes or our projections, our class sizes are at that limit, then we would not be able to allow any at that grade level or at that school if it was at that limit. However, if
Residents.
if you decided to move with your kids to Fort Mill in October, we would allow us to go over that average for a resident student.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Yep.
We'll move now to policy JFB, how the limited school choice program would work. I want to walk you through those revisions. We actually have a school choice policy that has federal provisions in it that are required for every school district related to Title I and school improvement status. But we would be adding language related to a limited school choice program for our resident families. Step 1, each year we designate a particular set of schools that have available capacity using our annual enrollment data, our projections, and consulting with principals. Now, principals play an important part in this process because, as you know, there are certain program models that have certain requirements. For example, relocation of a special services program or the design of a gifted and talented program might have legitimate programmatic or instructional requirements that would not allow us to go to the ratio that we've published. And so any such determination, of course, would be made in consultation with our principals. And we want to ensure that as we make those decisions, that both the operational realities and the instructional integrity of our programs are protected when we're looking at class size ratios. The second step would involve an application window. Families would be able to apply during that designated time period. We would ask that all children from the same family be included on the application because we want to include sibling priority as a part of that process, and I'll get to that in just a minute. We'd have a district level team, student services team, go team, to conduct this process before we are able to get that software that Ms. Lordo talked to you about. And we document those results and oversee the drawing. And of course, we notify our families in writing, by letter, as selected, siblings selected or not selected, and they would have to accept by a certain deadline for our planning purposes. You'll notice that there are two items there about wait list and appeal, and I want to talk you through why there would be no wait list and why there would be no appeal for a lottery-based assignment. We understand that wait lists can cause ongoing enrollment stability and instability throughout the school year, which can also make it difficult to make sound staffing and resource decisions. So we want that to be stable for those reasons. Additionally, we have to account for the fact that our resident zone students always have the right to enroll at their home school at any time during the school year. And so we always have to have the capacity to receive those resident zone students. When we conduct a lottery with a defined outcome, we can stabilize those projections from the beginning of the year and ensure we're never in a position where we're unable to do that. In terms of an appeal, the lottery process in and of itself is designed to be the fairest possible method of selection because it removes human discretion from the outcome. And an appeal process would fundamentally undermine the idea of a lottery. So, hope that's helpful.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
On this page. Is the lottery drawing going to be done by student or by application?
It would be drawn by student.
Okay,
So-
so if I wanted to enter my family, my two sons in the drawing, but I'm going up against Joe, who's got 5 kids, right? In the drawing, he's going to have more of a chance because siblings have to be pulled together.
Not necessarily. So we would start with a specific school, looking at those seats across the school. When we pull the name for the student, we would check to see, hey, do we have a seat for this particular student? Let's say we have a seat for Mr. Helm's child. We would then check the application. Does this student have a sibling? Is there a sibling that is also on the application? If yes, do we have capacity to serve that sibling? If we do, yes. If not, that sibling's denied, we move to the next name.
So it could be a disadvantage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or an advantage. That's why I'm saying maybe, like, are we considering just every family application as your entry?
When we look at the
only issue with that would be you might want one student to, it'd probably be rare, but you might want, if one of your student gets into, let's say, Pleasant Knoll Elementary School, but your other student, it's 2nd grade, and then in 4th grade, your son can't or your daughter can't, then you might choose for your one son to go to Pleasant Knoll Elementary and your other child to go to Gold Hill or wherever it is.
For intra.
Yeah.
But we're not going to consider that for.
No.
No, for inter, we'll have a new
process. Yeah.
process.
I'll bring you new guidelines for that related to the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Perfect. That answers my question.
Sibling priority, I think I just explained that, how that would work. The continuation right. Once students would be accepted under the limited school choice program, they would be able to stay in their school until they reach the terminal grade in that school. Advancing to the next school, the next feeder pattern would require a new lottery request. Remember, we talked about this being a budget neutral process, mirroring this after some of the inter-district that's coming in a few years. So transportation, again, would be the responsibility of the parent and the guardian or the family. I want to highlight 2 specific items on the right-hand side. And these items align with what's in the state's final inter-district transfer guidelines. And it says that a choice assignment can be revoked for high school students if they have 5 or more absences unexcused in a semester, 10 or more absences for the year at the elementary or middle level, 10 or more tardies, 5 or more days of suspension, or a level 3, which is bringing a weapon to school, really extensive discipline issues in the prior school year. One of the reasons for that is if parents are going to be responsible for transportation, we want students to be at school on time. And if it is to your instructional benefit to ride a bus to get to school on time. We don't want to sacrifice that in the name of choice. So that's one of the reasons. Additionally, there's a provision for when attendance zones are redrawn. And so we know that has to happen from time to time. And if that happens, then affected families would reapply through the lottery. Those attendance zones that are approved by the board would take precedence.
Question.
Yes.
Is that look back only one school year on their attendance?
Yeah, so it's at the point of application, so it's in the prior year, and then it's at the end of the year for their current year. How are they doing as a limited choice student?
And it, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Dixon, that coincides with the state
It does.
model policy for
It does.
interdistrict.
In fact, in the state interdistrict policy, you can deny a student based on those same elements. You can deny their entry.
But we can't make that stricter so that we would go back, for instance, 3 years versus 1 year.
No, right.
Okay.
Right.
You should have a pretty good understanding of.
All right. The last policy I'm asking for some changes or some revisions on is JCA, which is our foundational student assignment policy. Most of it remains the same, and that's what's on the left-hand side of the screen. We assign students based on their legal residence. The board approves any changes in attendance zones and appeals we receive in the Office of Student Services in writing, and we make a determination about those. The new language in that policy accounts for boundary revisions as it relates to limited school choice. School choice, and it's just a simple sentence that really directs all school choice to policy JFB so that we don't have conflicting language across two policies. And then says that the lottery results are final and not subject to appeal, as we discussed. So next steps. I'll bring this back to you in June at your June meeting. And based on your approval of these revisions, our office could work toward operationalizing this as soon as next school year. Now, it would be a quick turnaround for us, but we have been working in the background in the event you elect to do that. We would begin identifying participating schools based on their available capacity, developing an application, communicating the schools that would be participants in the limited school choice program, the number of seats that would be available, and then conducting the lottery according to a published timeline, along with notifying families and providing an opportunity for acceptance. Going forward, with the implementation of the inter-district state transfer policy, our limited school choice work would be done in the first semester, and the inter-district state work would be done in the second semester, giving our resident families the option for choice before any non-resident applicants. To conclude, our goal is simple: to give resident families a meaningful, fair, and fiscally responsible school choice option while protecting capacity and quality of every school in our district. I'm happy at this time to take any questions.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Sure.
I think that it's my opinion, and it's for what it's worth. It sounds to me like we're going to need to add a body that's going to manage this. And if we're trying to achieve that for the coming school year, we need to add that in this budget going out.
Well, Ms. Brandy, I am certainly appreciative of your sentiment. I will not deny that, but
Tell me no.
I
know she does. Don't worry.
but our team has been working diligently to prepare this as an option should you choose to approve it.
Hey, Dr. Dixon, on the school choice, what level have we settled on that's going to apply to? Is it all 3 levels, or is it just elementary, middle, or just elementary?
We think we want to do this on a small scale for first step. Additionally, at the high school level, there are some very specific course requirements and prerequisites. So our initial thought, tentative, is that we would do this just on the elementary and middle school level.
I joke, but I do agree with Ms. Brandy.
This is a full person, full-time.
Yeah.
More capacity than what we've got with current staff, in my opinion. because this is a whole different animal that we as a district have never encountered or crossed paths to do. And I think it needs to be done right, because that's what we do.
But if I'm understanding what you just said, is that student services, your team has been preparing for this, having heard that we were interested in
Yes, ma'am.
looking at these options.
Correct.
And you'll get back to us if it is too overwhelming for your team
Yes, ma'am.
with a request, I'm sure.
I will.
And
Miss Lorda will tell you what she's gonna tell you.
That I'm certain of.
I'm excited for our community. I'm curious to see, because I've always said that every school in Fort Mill is an excellent school. It doesn't matter, you know, when people say, what side should I move to? I'm like, wherever you like the house. So I'm curious what our community will say. At the national conference, they said it's more about parents having a voice than the actual choices that they make. They just want the input. So I'll be curious.
I absolutely agree. You know, when we brought to you earlier in the year the non-resident employee policy, we anticipated that we would get, you know, I think Superintendent Young said somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 interest. We've gotten less than 100 students
Okay.
as a result of that process. So
I got another one. So it's called school choice. Do they actually get to choose, or are we going to select that on their behalf?
it's limited school choice because it is based on capacity.
Yep.
And so the selection is data driven based on capacity and available. So no, you don't get to select because the school you select could not have the capacity. Does that make sense?
So a parent, even if a parent suggested, hey, I would really like to go to this school, it's still, and say that was one of the 2 or 3 or 4 that we have, it would still be recommended by us. We would still be responsible for saying, hey, it's not going to be that one, it's going to be this one.
Well, it's lottery based.
Yeah.
So the lottery process will determine where it is, and the capacity process will determine where the seats are.
Okay. There's no request that can be.
Correct.
Correct.
so if they're chosen in the lottery, they would have a choice between the school that was selected for them or their
Correct.
Zone school.
zone school. Yeah.
School choice.
I will tell you that Lexington School District 1 is doing a very similar process. I've modeled some of our revisions after theirs, where they open seats at capacity, schools that have available capacity. I do think this positions us well to be ready for the inter-district transfer process, but gives our resident families an option prior to giving non-resident folks that option.
And we would need to update the policy again before that went into effect in
Yes.
27, 28.
Yep, we would bring that back early fall to you, August, to talk about that policy.
Does anybody else have a question? Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you.
And still more policy from Mr. Olinger.
Oh, look, the rock star. I was gonna give him a hard time, not you.
Okay.
Mr. Mallory, who left with all of his,
All of this stuff.
yeah, he was like, yeah. Olinger, I'm done with policy.
I'm a little disappointed he didn't stay because this is HR policy here.
Right?
Everybody's favorite.
The importance.
And that's why they put me last. Well, good evening. We do have 3 policies for HR that we wanted to update. This first one is on policy GCB, professional staff contracts and compensation. These are some wording changes. The first one is we basically changed teachers must give written acceptance of their contracts to the superintendent before May 11th. By the Educator Assistance Act, that is supposed to be May 10th. Before it said by May 11th, so there's some ambiguity.
Yep.
By the end of May 11th, no, it's really by midnight, 11:59 p.m. on May 10th. So that's why we say before May 11th. The next bulleted point is that the superintendents will notify teachers of their assignment no later than 14 calendar days before students begin. Our policy used to say August 15th. Well, we are now into our, Joe Burke, what's the name of our calendar now? Modified school calendar, so we start before August 15th, so our teachers probably need to know before the start of that. So the second change to that policy would to also go along with our Educator Assistance Act of the 14 calendar days prior to the school year beginning. So those are our two proposed changes for that policy.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
It says the superintendent will notify. Could we go ahead and update that language that says superintendent or designee?
Yes, ma'am.
That's something we've been trying to clean up for a hot minute now,
Yes, ma'am.
so let's do it while we do it.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on that?
Not here.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Ollinger.
Well, I got a couple more.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
I wasn't gonna let you get by with just
Just
one
kidding.
slide
I'm
from me. I've been
so
waiting a
ready
long
to
time
see
to get up here.
action.
I got two more policies for you. The next one is policy GCC, professional staff leaves and absences. We're gonna add grandchild to the list of immediate family members where an employee will be eligible to take 3 days of bereavement leave.
Yes.
Our policy currently has grandparent, so our rationale is we want to be the same going both ways. So we would like to add grandchild. Also, under the bereavement leave, we would like to add that it doesn't specifically say this, but they do get 3 days for an immediate family member, but those days don't have to be consecutive for the loss of that family member. That sometimes you have celebrations of life that occur later on, so that our employees would have the opportunity to space out that bereavement leave should there be a celebration of life or similar event to honor that family member. So those are the two rationales there for that policy under GCC. Any questions on that one?
No, sir.
The last one, this goes with resignation of staff.
Not a
First thing, we're gonna GCQC and GCQD. The first thing we're gonna change is throughout that policy, it used to say, well, it currently says instructional and or / administrative staff. On our contracts and everything, it says professional staff. And it says professional staff in different parts of that policy, so we're gonna clean that up and remove instructional administrative staff to just professional staff, because it will contain both of those groups there, and make that consistent. The second thing we're adding is there wasn't a whole lot of information about breach of contracts in that section. So we are adding a full section on the breach of contract, which I believe you got that memo in your board packet. Essentially what that talks about is if you sign a contract elsewhere without releasing from us, if that were the case, that would void that second contract. They would have to get a release from us first. It also specified the superintendent, these are just summaries of this couple of paragraphs in there. The superintendent will report breach to the board if the resignation is not accepted. And I'll get into some reasons why a resignation may be accepted here in a moment in that policy. And you all will have that ability to file a complaint with the State Board of Education within 60 days of the breach of that contract. And as you know, once we do report that to the state board, that can result in suspension or revocation of that professional certificate. You know, with the Educator Assistance Act changes, that is now down to a 6-month suspension from the date of breach, if they choose to suspend that. Other proposed changes, this gives, there are changes here. Again, we're moving from May 11th to May 10th. We are removing military or business transfer of a spouse as an allowable condition because in some of the new reasons for you may be released from your contract, as it does add bona fide residence change to a non-contiguous county. So that would include a military or a business transfer of a spouse. So we'll get the language consistent there. Also, we're adding part of that is promotion within another school district. And we were removing the 30-day advance notice requirement, which used to be there. And overall, this whole thing just strengthens the accountability and the scope of that professional staff and the breach of contract. So that's why we're adding those parts. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have in regards to this policy.
Can you jump back to, I think it was the second one? Yeah. Actually, it was one on bereavement.
That was
Yeah,
the
there we go.
previous policy.
Is there, why just 3 days? Like, what's the rationale on that?
So, I mean, that's pretty consistent with most districts, is 3 days.
So I'm thinking if we have a staff member who loses a spouse, 3 days. Like, I don't, they may not really be fit to serve kids on day 4. You know what I mean? And we've had that happen. I mean,
Right.
Are we open to something there for like immediate spouse or immediate child?
I think federal regulation only, I think that's a
Like
a
we can
federal
only
guideline, I'll
allow
call it.
like we're
Doesn't mean that it's gospel, but I think that is a United States norm.
But does it have to be that? Like,
Well, it doesn't.
it could be a norm.
It doesn't, but there's ramifications that come into that, and they're budgetary, as is everything, but it's budgetary ramification. Not being heartless, not thinking, not disagreeing, just answering the question is, why is it only 3?
Yeah, man, that's tough.
We can look at it. We can
We-
investigate other districts, but
We can
I don't know of any that are.
We can
I'm
definitely
talking
look
about,
at,
like for this specific,
Yeah.
like, hey, we've been married for 30 years and my husband passed away, kind of stuff like that. You're not stepping into the classroom.
That doesn't mean that my 3-year marriage is worth any less.
Right. But I'm just giving an
But
example here.
There are other mechanisms, short-term disability, things.
Days, sick
Right,
days.
right. There are other mechanisms where that time can be allocated.
Allowable.
Yeah.
Or allowable, yeah.
I'm with you. It seems heartless.
so.
Yeah.
I just, in this policy under GCC, now this, we can definitely look at it, but I just want to also bring to your attention, there is an emergency leave section where a staff member can submit a request to the superintendent and their principal for approval. But again, we could definitely look at this to see what, we have immediate family, we could define, again, spouse, and I'm not saying all are not important, but for spouse, child, that may take a little more time depending on that. We could definitely look at that and then come back with some information for you.
Thanks.
So I did have a question for you on the last one, but now I've got to circle back, so give me just one moment.
On contract releases?
Yes, well, yes and no. So I guess my question becomes, to the legal language, do we, if we remove military, because that tends to be, I'll call it a protected class, do we run into a potential issue there because a military personnel or their spouse, not necessarily clearly understanding the defining, might feel some sort of way because it's no longer a line item where we're acknowledging it under residence change?
Right, so
And I don't know, so it's been a hot minute.
we can look at that too, but normally, like, what we have seen and kind of looking back at past employees, if they are being transferred militarily, they're moving a distance away
Agree.
outside of a non-contiguous county.
Right.
So if they move beyond, say, Chester.
So what I think the original intention to it was if I'm in the reserves and I get called up, I'm breaching my contract, because guess what? The government's contract supersedes.
There's other things within our leave policy that deals with military.
Okay.
Yeah, so if, for example,
That's my only
if you
question.
get called up,
is-
yeah, for like the reserves, we do have teachers now. We have there's a different in the policy for GCC that deals with military personnel.
Okay.
They provide certain documentation, and then they get that leave according to the orders. that were-
And basically, we
Permanent
hold
versus
their job
temporary.
for them. This
Correct.
is about.
Yeah, that's protected.
Yeah.
Under the GCC policy and then the military leave.
This is
section.
about not reporting them to the State Department for
Correct.
breaking a contract.
Correct. That's because they want to break their contract. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm good.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll take some action.
Awesome.
No, I don't think so. I think we should, I don't know, call a
Miss-
timeout or
Miss
something.
Welch,
Miss
who
Welch,
loves
who
to talk to
loves
us
to talk
so
to
much.
us.
Very quick.
I
Okay, I am here tonight to request a meal price increase. As I discussed at the last board meeting, we are requesting 5 cents for breakfast and 5 cents for lunch. So our breakfast price will go from $1.85 to $1.90. Elementary lunch, $3 to $3.05, and middle school and high school will go to $3.80. And the reason for this is the 2.5%, one of the reasons, salary scale increases that we have coming next year for all our staff.
From a contingency budget fund account, you can still continue to have some money there, or it's?
We'll have a fund balance. Yeah, we still have a fund balance.
But we're also earmarking that for equipment replacements. and
Correct,
such, not
yes.
For the future.
We always want to carry a fund balance because
Yes, yes,
anything can go wrong
sure.
equipment-wise, and we have to be able to purchase new equipment.
Public reminder that this is a separate budget, that, separate from our general fund. It's
Right, we are not part of the general fund. All the revenue we make comes from the federal government, our customers paying.
Right.
And some state funding we get for the reduced students.
And you're the largest restaurant.
We are the largest restaurant in town. Where can you go to get a breakfast for $1.90?
You can't even.
That
get
includes a protein, a great milk, and a whole cup of fruit.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to raise meal prices across the board by 5 cents per category as requested.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Yay.
Thank you.
Passes.
Look at how fast that was.
Woo-wee. And then Dr. Wakesness.
All right, so we have a set of new course proposals, and it seems like each year we have more and more of these rather than one time, but that's how the state's been rolling lately. But in February, we got a memo from the State Department that starting next year, our Project Lead the Way courses will no longer be eligible for dual credit weighting. We have a slew of Project Lead the Way classes. They're on the next slide. And currently, if a student gets a passing grade and they pass the exam from Project Lead the Way, they get dual credit weighting, which is a pretty big deal. But the state is no longer going to allow that starting next year. However, they did say if a district would like to, they can make it an honors level class in accordance with our local policy. So we are going to request that these Project Lead the Way courses be changed from CP level to honors weighting. And this is a result of the state not allowing dual credit weighting anymore. And there's 2 other sets of requests, and then I'll take any questions that you may have. The second one, the state made a change in their creative writing course. They recently changed it from a full credit to a half credit. So for next year, we are asking for the following changes. We're going to teach creative writing 1 and 2 together as a 1 semester course. It's a half credit course and a half credit course, so a student who takes it will still get a full credit. They'll just have 2 different classes on their transcript. But then we'd also like to add an advanced creative writing CP class, so not an honors level class, but this will give students who want to have a full year of a writing course progression, they'll be able to have that. So right now, our students take creative writing 1 first semester, creative writing 2 second semester, so they have a whole year of writing. These are for students who are, this is one of their interests. But due to the state change, we would have to combine creative writing 1 and 2 into 1 semester. They would still get 1 credit. And if they wanted to continue, they would take advanced creative writing in the second semester. The third request, the state has made some changes with the academic strategies class. This is a class that we currently have that gives students extra support in a wide variety of skills. It could be based on reading, it could be math, it could be writing, it could be self-advocacy skills, teaching students to be more self-directed. The state is only going to allow this course for students with an IEP going forward, but we have students that may not have an IEP that we think benefit from this class. This is a very limited number of students at each high school. So we're going to ask that we create a local board approved class called Student Support Seminar 1 through 8 for these students to be able to take it. This, again, students are put in these classes based off of their academic data mostly, and it's a very small number of students at each school. If we did not make this change, only students with IEPs would be able to be served in this class. So I know that's a lot really quickly, but are there any questions?
I have a question.
Okay,
On the advanced creative writing,
yes.
I recognize that 1 and 2 was only a half a credit, but it was originally a year-long course. So if a student is now doing a year-long course in a semester and adding the advanced creative writing, why would we not consider that as an honors course?
Well, good question. I think the first thing is it wouldn't necessarily be a third class, where typically with our elective classes, it's the third class.
Okay.
So creative writing 1 and 2 is really going to be, it's 2 separate titles, but it's really 1 semester class.
Got it.
So I would think of that as like the first level class.
It's going to be creative writing CP, and then it's going to be advanced creative writing CP. We're going to drop 1 and 2. What
No.
class does it-
So if you have these classes, your first semester, you'll have creative writing 1 for 9 weeks and creative writing 2 for 9 weeks. But basically it's 1 class. It's going to be the same teacher, the same set of kids, and the student's experience is going to be like creative writing 1. But it's going to be 2 classes technically. And then if they want to continue the second semester, they would take the advanced creative writing.
Okay.
So they'd have a full year of writing courses, where right now they have the full year, but it's called creative writing 1 and creative writing 2.
Got it.
This request was creatively written.
It was creative.
Yes. It's a way to get our students who really enjoy and want to expand their horizons as writers to have a year-long experience.
That they were already having.
They were already having, yes.
Correct, okay.
But we don't necessarily want to agree with the state's changes and still have that year-long experience for our kids.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration for the 11 courses designated to change from CP to honors weighting due to the Project Lead the Way. I had to think on that for a second, sorry. In addition, to approve the change to the course for creative writing 1 and 2 CP, advanced creative writing CP, and then for triple S 1 through 8 as course offerings.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Can I make a quick note? I don't know if it matters, but those would be local board approved classes.
I almost said that, and then I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, so the writing courses and the student support seminar would be local board approved
As
courses.
locally approved board courses.
Do you still second?
I do still second.
All right, any discussion on those? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed.
Thank you.
You are almost faster than Mr. Scroggs, I think,
Is
so.
that all of them? Wait, was that all of them? Or is this, what's this next
What?
academic study?
Motion to go into
Oh, is that,
executive.
that's
Executive
the,
session.
got it. Never mind, sorry.
I just made a motion to go into executive.
You did not.
Did.
You are not allowed to do that.
Great, because we need one to discuss personnel. We're in executive session.
And legal and contractual, is that like all the things on our,
I think we're just personnel today.
well, our agenda
Okay,
says
and anything that it says on the agenda.
personnel recommendations, legal issues, and contractual issues.
Okay.
Second.
All right, thanks, you guys.
You are.
Okay, we are back.
To return to public session.
Thank you. We are back after that wonderful motion, and we did discuss some legal, contractual, and personnel matters, and we have some actions to take.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation for 26 replacement certified positions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, opposed.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to name candidate Copperhead as the principal for Catawba Ridge High School.
All in
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved. Motion to adjourn.
All right.